Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we are currently heading off to Brigo with this rover. So we, of course, need to, well, match that inclination. That is, very off, no doubt about that. So let's set up a maneuver for at the descending node, looks like. That'll be fine. And let's just get this roughly lined up here. Okay, something kind of similar to that. And we're going to need to bring this up to be about... I'm just trying to see where exactly this orbit is. Okay. Yeah, it's going to need to be about here or so. Something kind of like that. So very, very close to equatorial. What is... This is 3.84, and the Brigo inclination is 0.00. So really, at the target descending node, we want to go to an inclination of 0.00, right? So just no inclination whatsoever. So that's going to be... Let's just turn down that sensitivity a little bit as we do this last little bit here. Okay, this is going very slowly indeed. Okay, that's a timing issue then. So this is close enough. Let's go ahead and execute that. Fantastic. So we'll commence that burn. That is going to be a 500 meter per second burn. And how much delta V do we have left in this? 3.5 kilometers. I'm really not concerned about our DV. Deeply, deeply unconcerned. So that sounds good. So this is going to be about a 2-minute inclination change burn. That's fine. I definitely would have liked to launch into a perfectly equatorial orbit, but whatever. This is fine. Cool. So we've got about 40% burned here, and about 70 seconds of burn time to go. That is going to take a little while, for sure. And then we'll just push this right on out to Brigo. Should be no real problem getting there. 70% done with the burn now. And we're probably going to do our transfer burn sometime around here or so, is my guess. We'll see what that feels like. 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1, and done. Excellent. You can see our inclination isn't perfect, but it is good enough. So we can bring this right on out, and this is pretty close, but we're going to want to do this a little later. Looking pretty decent here. I see 531. We could definitely dial that in a little bit and have it be... Ooh. That is really close. 2.9 kilometers is a little too close, I think. Let's turn down that sensitivity a bit. And let's bring this into somewhere around 30 kilometers, I think. Maybe even 20 would be fine. Yeah, that's probably okay. So let's go ahead and run that burn. 1.09 kilometers per second. Sounds good. So that is going to be roughly a 4-minute burn there. Okay, we're definitely going to want to 2x that burn. No doubt about that. And you can see here, our thrust to weight is currently at 1.05. So this thrust to weight will be absolutely fine. No doubt about that. But we are currently not planning to land this. So that's... We're going to go as far as we can on this engine. But we're going to do the actual landing on these engines here with a sort of sky crane concept is the idea. So that'll be absolutely fine. Let's take a look at how we're doing on this burn. We are 30% of the way through. Looks good. Definitely a little low thrust to weight, but that thrust to weight will dramatically increase as we burn through this crazy amount of fuel that we've got here. So that looks good. We've got about 5 minutes of burn time in this, so that is really not bad. By the time we're done with this, I'm expecting to still have about 2 kilometers per second in this stage, which is massively overkill, to be clear. That is an insane amount of overkill. So that'll be absolutely fine. And I wonder what the thrust to weight of these, combined with this specific impulse, actually is. That'll be interesting. But we're going to be done with this burn quite soon, right? Yeah, about 20 seconds left on the burn. Sounds great. 90% of the way through. So we'll see where this puts our closest approach at. .9 kilometers, huh? Well, that could be interesting. Let's just go ahead and increase this warp speed a fair amount here and get up into that sphere of influence. So 16.4 kilometers, right? Now we want to burn at the periapsis, and we're just going to do a braking burn here. This is not going to be a very significant braking burn, and this should be a quite a bit easier landing than the landing on Luna was. 16 kilometers is probably fine. Yeah, this looks relatively okay. But we do need to land in the designated location, which is up here. Okay. In that case, we shouldn't brake quite this thoroughly. We should instead keep our orbit relatively high. I'm going to brake minimally here, and we're going to warp through and commence this burn here. I didn't even look at where our target location was, and I probably should have. No doubt about that. So we're going to minimally burn here, and we're going to need to change our inclination. I'd like this to be... Is this ever going to be on the day side? It might always be dark in that location. I don't know. We'll burn at the ascending node here, which is right there, and that is going to just increase this inclination, something like this, and we're going to combine that together. Yes, I know that this is an impact trajectory. We're going to combine that together with bringing this up. So it's going to be something kind of like that. It's going to be a pretty hefty inclination change. But we're just looking to bring this into being kind of a polar orbit, like this. Now, that is not exactly where we want it to be. So that's a kind of high orbit, but it's broadly similar to what we're looking for. So let's bring this up to about a 15-kilometer position, or something about like that. And then we can do a braking burn once we're here if we feel like it's necessary. So that's going to be a pretty high energy maneuver, 745 meters per second. Luckily, we've got 1.73 kilometers per second in this. We have more than enough in this stage to do what we need. So no concerns there. Our target location is currently showing as being there, but I think it's actually behind the curvature. Yeah, it definitely is. Okay, well, let's warp through this burn. It's going to be another 70 seconds here. So that's going to be quite an interesting thing. Targeting target location. Yes, that's fine. Okay, so now our best bet is going to be to circularize at the periapsis. I would like to give this a little time and see if this will head into the light over here. And we can also fly over it as we go over and just take a peek and see how dark it appears to be. If it's too dark, then that's not great. Let's see here. That looks pretty dark. Oh yeah, that is very, very dark. So that is noted. We're going to burn at the periapsis, and I want to drop this down to be roughly circularized. Something about like this is fine. Okay, so that's going to be 32.9 meters per second, and let's go ahead and perform that burn. Not going to be very much on the burn time, that's for sure. Okay, so now we're circularized here. And on this next pass, I'm going to go for dropping this, but Yeah, we can see that we've definitely had a little bit of shifting here. It's going to be dark, and that is unfortunate because we don't really have much in terms of ways to light it up right now, right? We didn't plan to land in the dark. I wonder if the rover itself has lights on it. I'd like to bring this out over to about here or so. And we're just looking to bring this in something like this. I'd like to overshoot that a bit. Okay, so we'll be aligned for that, and that burn will happen relatively shortly. I'm going to automate that burn as well. I want to be in surface mode here. And we're going to get rid of a large amount of our speed here while also doing a slight correction. How close to this designated location do we have to be for this to count, I wonder? Well, I guess we'll figure it out. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to stage this, and we're going to ditch all of this. We'll see how that goes. Okay. So let's stage. I'm not sure what we're doing here. Let's stage. Let's bring it over to velocity retrograde. And we've got these engines, right? So these engines are actually flipped. So we need to be at velocity prograde here. The question is, how close to the target location do we need to be? Looks like we need to be within this circle. Okay. Well. Checking our thrust to weight, 2.51. Okay. We are apparently spinning a lot. Why are we spinning so much? Well, let's pause this for the moment. I want to come in here, and I want to make sure that both of these engines are activated. They are. Okay. I think we're having that issue where we're not directly positioning ourselves here. So I think the takeaway is these engines should not have gimbal to them. Because, yeah, you can see here, we're just spinning a lot. This spins up like mad. Okay. That is certainly problematic. We've overshot this at this point. This shouldn't do this. To be clear, this is not the way this should be designed. Is there an option to do this? Well, what I want to check here is, as we get this spin under control, are we still angling off? I think that this has to do with the gimbal on these engines, and unfortunately, we can't turn off the gimbal at this point, unlike in KSP, where we absolutely could turn off the gimbal. Okay, so I'm checking in here on the actual thrust levels here. So I'm pausing this. So thrust is 1.52 kilonewtons versus 1.52 kilonewtons. This is completely symmetrical. The only reason we're picking up this spin is because of the gimbaling here. So these are gimbaling in a really weird direction. They shouldn't be gimbaling in the way that they are, and this is certainly unexpected behavior. So the question is, why are they doing this? That is definitely an interesting question. I think the real takeaway that we need to have here, though, is that these sorts of engines, they need to not have gimbaling on them at all. Anytime we have engines that are mounted like this, we should turn off the gimbaling. So to that end, we could end this flight and turn this off. I don't think we're going to be able to land this in this configuration when it spins up like that due to the gimbaling. I don't know that there's any way that we could fix it either, unless we were to be able to offset our roll correctly. We've already overshot, though. Okay, let's try... Oh, it really doesn't want to change the roll. I guess the SAS is overpowering this. Okay. So, yeah, this is obviously not how this is supposed to work. No doubt about that. Obviously, this is not the way this is supposed to happen. So we're going to call this one a failure. We cannot revert this at this point. So we're going to have to bite the bullet and just let this crash. So we're going to, it's making us retry, but we're going to retry / undo. No, we have to undo an exit here, but we need to resume this flight and we need to destroy the craft is what that has to do. So we need to go into our build then, and we can make a couple of modifications here. Modification number 1, I want to grab this and move it up onto this tank. Modification number 2, I want to grab this engine, and I think that the issue here is that it gimbals. So we want to disable the gimbal on both of those engines. Okay, now do we want to increase the nozzle length here? We could. We could put this nozzle length as being about at 50%, about like that. So that'll be relatively fine. We should definitely be pretty solid there. So we're going to have to refly this, but that was definitely unexpected that it would create that kind of spin with a completely symmetrical, completely stable layout like this. Although I'm wondering if maybe the issue wasn't actually the engine gimbaling. Maybe the issue was that the rover itself doesn't have a stable center of mass. Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out. Let's run this quick, and we'll see how that goes. So out to the alley pad we go. It has issues. It has no payload available from active contracts. Did we fail that contract? We shouldn't have, I don't think. No, it's this contract. I think we're just not assigned to the contract, is my guess. So let's see. I need to try to remember how to do this. Contract Brigo Rover number 189. Has 1 payload of this type, but 0 payloads are available. Okay, I guess we'll get rid of this rover and we'll re-put it on. We still have the contract. So... Apparently the payload destruction means that we can't do this anymore? Interesting. But we've been able to do that when we've destroyed the craft and gone back previously. Huh. I wonder what happens if I save this craft and I reload the game. That would be interesting to find out. I don't know if this is a bug or if this is a feature. I would think that if it works the way I think it's working here, where we only get 1 rover and we have to deliver it that way, that makes sense, but I would think that this contract would have failed. It didn't fail. So let's see if reloading the game fixes it. So let's load this and see what happens. So we come back in here. There's nothing in here, right? And we come in here. Yeah, okay. So I guess we have to cancel this contract at this point. But that's going to cost us 180 million to cancel. So that's odd. I feel like we're better off to just let it fail over time then. But I guess what we could try doing... No, it's too late now, because this thing only has 1 save. I was going to say we could try going back to the save at the beginning of this episode. We can't do that either. Okay, so that's awkward, for sure. That's very, very awkward. I guess we're just going to have to take the hit. Or we could just let it fail and do other missions for now. So let's refresh the contracts here. And let's see what we've got here. So we've got this Brigo landing one here. So this is just landing on Brigo, tech points if crewed. That's definitely something we could do. I kind of wonder what happens if we fully restart the game. I'm going to try that. Be right back. Okay, so I fully restarted the game, and oh, I need to select the game. That generally helps. And that did not fix it. However, I canceled the contract that costed 180 million, and I re-accepted it because it came back up immediately when we refreshed. And presumably, yeah, Rover's here now. So I'm thinking that the way that it works is that it only allows us to do it the once, right? So we only have the one payload. And yeah, I think that's the way it works. So the way we're going to have to do this is we need to get this into orbit and test that we've fixed the spinning issue while we can still revert it back. The way that this game does its autosaves is kind of weird. No doubt about it. So we're just going to launch this guy straight on up here. And we need to put this into an orbit. What? It just immediately blew up? Oh, right. The rover deploys in the first round, doesn't it? We need to undo an exit because the rover deploys right away because the staging is broken. Yes. Understood. So we need to hop into our staging here. The rover is the absolute last thing that deploys, not the first thing. Okay, there we go. So now we're going to put this out on the pad. We need to get this up into orbit and test to ensure, or at least up into space, and test to ensure that we are in a position where this is not going to spin us up like that. That's what we need, because that spin was insane. Without the gimbal, in theory, it should be okay, I think. We're just launching this straight up right now. I just want to put us into space. We do not need to get to orbit with this attempt. And let's just bring this right on up. So we definitely threw away like half of the contract reward, but this will still be profitable for us at this point, assuming that the spin problem is fixed. So we're just punching straight up right now, and I'm just looking to get altitude. We don't need sideways velocity to test this. So we're just going up. Okay. Upwards we go. We're going to deploy the fairing right now. And we'll just keep burning, like, here-ish. We are naturally pitching over, it seems. Like, this is a weird attitude to be at, but whatever. I guess it's fine. This didn't actually have an attitude set, apparently. Weird. It doesn't matter. We don't care about the actual attitude here, because we're just going up into space to test this. So now I'm going to cut this engine. I'm going to stage this. I'm going to stage it again. And we're going to flip this around to retrograde. We're going to burn. Are we spinning? No, we're not. But now we are, of course, because I switched our velocity around. We want our velocity to be on retrograde because this needs to be upside down. And yeah, you can see with these engines fixed and not gimbaling, there's no spin happening here. We are a little off of our target position. This is probably due to slightly uneven weight on our rover here. So, in order to counteract that, I'm going to bring this back, and we're going to slightly increase our command disk. I wanted to actually undo an exit. There we go. I'm going to slightly increase our command disk to have a slightly larger gyroscope in it. So I want to pull this off. I want to grab the command disk, and I want to set the length here to be about 0.5 meters. So that is going to be a little heavier, but we know that we shouldn't really have too much problem with that. And if we go in here, we can see lots of volume for gyros. I don't care about volume for battery. So this should be relatively good. Let's give this one more test and make sure that we're able to hold attitude properly. So off we go. We are going straight up here. Excellent. So we just want to ensure that our attitude is correct. We have fixed the spin issue, which apparently is due to the gyroscope on those engines. It's very strange to me that it causes that, but okay. Let's make sure that we have our pitch set. There we go. And we're just going to burn here until we have an apoapsis of like 200 kilometers. It really doesn't matter. Let's ditch this stage for now, and we are just going to go up until we're out of the atmosphere, which we now are. So I'm going to cut those engines. Stage, stage again. Point retrograde here. And let's see what our nav ball says. Okay. It's definitely drifting off from where I want it to be. I want it to be pointing right at retrograde. But it's probably close enough to be manageable. It's a little closer than it was before, that's for sure. So that's definitely interesting. I feel like we have largely solved the issue then. So we need to bring this back. And we need to end flight, we need to undo an exit, and now we need to launch this thing for realsies. And hopefully, we're not going to fail it this time. It's really weird to me that the gyroscopes on the engines cause it to do the things that it does. But I guess we'll just go with a fixed gimbal on those engines, and that'll do the trick, I guess. It is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to send this guy right on up to Brigo. We're going to get this done for real this time. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings. And a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.